Hi there. We're going to do another program using Google Colab, and we're going to be using Python. So what I'm going to do is first do a couple little things. So over on the right-hand side, I'm going to change my permissions here, my settings, sorry. I'm going to change my settings so that I'm now going to include the number line, so line numbers. So if I click Save, what you'll see is now 1. So as our programs get longer and longer, it's just nicer to keep track which line of code we're talking about. So especially when you're in a collaborative environment, when you're sharing with others, you want to say, oh, take a look at line 10 or take a look at line 500, whatever it is. So this is just a nice practice to have. What I'm also going to do is, in good practice, is to try to comment more. So a nice thing to do is to leave those comments. So these are comments which that means is lines of code that are not being executed. So to model that, I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to use a hashtag to indicate this is just a comment line. This is not to be executed in any way. So the hashtag does it automatically. And I'm going to type in collect user information. All right, so that's exactly what I'm going to do. So in this program, I'm going to show you how to do conditional statements. And to do that, we're going to look at collecting some information from our end users, and we're going to be looking at movie prices. So let's get started. First thing I'm going to do is collect the user's first name. So we've done this before, but this one I'm going to break it up, first name and a last name, and I'm going to now have those variables, and we're going to just keep going from there. So first name. Now I have shown how if we have two words together that you can use this underscore to connect them. But I may have mentioned as well that you could use Camel Case, which would look like this, which means the second word would have a capital letter here, like the first name, capital N. You can choose whichever you prefer. I'm going to keep it lowercase and I'm going to use underscore. So first name, and then you have to do equal sign. Now I'm going to do a better job at my spacing as well, just to make things nice and clean. Now, since the first name is something I'm going to be gathering that information, I'm going to ask for the end user to give me their first name. I have to use my input function. I'm going to put a string, so I'm going to put some quotation marks now to ask for the first name. So we could say first name. We can actually just go like this, first name, space, and there we go. And that way it creates a little space when we have the box, that prompt for us to fill in the information, which is why I'm putting the space there after the colon. I'm going to do the same thing for last name, equal sign, input again, and last name. It's a little more formal. Very good. And let's say we're going to do age. It's another variable, input, oops, age. All right. So we're collecting this information, but we haven't printed anything yet. So we're just collecting it or naming it with these variables so that we can call them up at any time. That's collecting the user information. So now what I'd like to do is give some conditional situations. So what are the movie prices? So I'm going to actually use comment tag again. Okay. So what I'm going to do is go if age, so I'm going to call up the variable age. If the age is going to be, let's say for someone young, so I'm going to say anyone less than or equal to, let's say the age of 5 is going to be my barrier, kind of like, so anyone 5 and under, you know what, you're so young, you don't have to pay for a ticket, so we'll just do that. So we'll go less than or equal to 5. Okay, if that's the case, then this condition will take place. So I'm going to put the colon to indicate now, and you see when as soon as I put the colon in there, when I hit enter, it actually indents automatically because this is going to fit underneath that line of code. So anything I type underneath here is going to now take place if that first condition is met. So if the person is less than or equal to the age of 5, then the ticket price, this is now a new variable we're going to introduce here, is going to be equal to 0. Okay, just a couple of spaces, and I'm going to just go back because I want to indent back to the main line because I'm going to do a new conditional situation. I can't do if at this point. If I have if this, then the next would be, well, if that's not the case, else if. Now with Python, it's not else if, they don't type the whole thing out. They just kind of condense it to elif. Okay, so it's kind of like else if condensed to elif. So else if the variable again age, but this time I'm going to say in this case, if you're less than 18, what's going to happen? Okay, colon, very important. And you'll know you didn't do this right if I hit enter right now and if not indented. That means, oh, I'm not in a condition situation where if this statement is true, then this is going to take place. So I have my colon, hit enter. Now I'm going to assign the variable ticket price to a different value. And let's say for anyone who's less than 18 is going to be 12. So let me make sure we're really clear about this when I say less than 18, because you're thinking, well, wait a minute, what if you're 5 or under? It's supposed to be 0. So let's walk through this process so far. So we have movie prices. If this condition is true, so if this person is less than or equal to 5, then the ticket price is 0. But the only reason why I would get to this stage is because this condition is not true. So, but however, let's say someone put the age of 11 in, so it wouldn't meet this criteria, but it would meet this criteria. If they're less than 18, then the ticket price is 12. So then we have a third piece of information here. Well, what if they're not even under 18? That would be everybody else. So everybody else is going to have a different ticket price ticket, and this would be considered like our adults. I'm going to indent back, and now instead of if or else if or elif, I just have to go else. So this is for everybody else. Colon though, still really important because that means again when I hit enter, it's going to have a condition now underneath. Like this is if this condition is met, then this is what's going to happen. That means everybody else is going to have a ticket price of $16. Okay, so far so good. So what I would like at this point is I want to test my code. So to do that, I think it's time to print our ticket. So print ticket price. I'm not going to keep this. This is really just for now. It's like, okay, where are we at? Are we good to go? What is the ticket price at this point after I've gathered this information up here? So it's time to run the code. Okay. And I'm going to put an age, which is going to meet, it should meet anyways, the first expectation where it's going to be less than or equal to 5. So I'm going to put 3 in. Okay. Oh, and I have an error. Let's take a look at what this is saying. Type error, less than or equal to not supported between instances of string and integer. Good call. So in a previous program, I talked about this where we have to be really careful. Here, up here with age, I'm inputting a number. However, the computer just reads it as characters. Okay, so for example, the age 3 is just really a character 3. It's not a number to be worked with. It's not a number that you can compare to less than or equal to 5 or less than 18 or anywhere else. So we now need to go back and think, oh yeah, can't be a character, can't be string. I need to convert this guy to an integer. So we're going to go back up to the top. I'm going to go to line 5. And this time I'm going to do a little trick here. So I'm going to take, well, age is not only just our input, whatever someone puts in, but we're also going to say age is going to be an integer. And then we have to call the variable again. Okay, so we're now converting our age input value to be an integer. So this line does that. So let's run our code. There you go. So ticket price is 0, and that's only why it says 0 right there. I didn't say to print anything else. I didn't put any strings in there with quotations. It was really just a test to make sure that everything went as it should, that the ticket price should be 0 if I met the first expectation here. Let's do it again, but this time let's go in this range. Let's try 11 this time. Okay, my ticket price is 12. Perfect. Let's do one more. We're going to be anywhere else. And my ticket price is 16. Awesome. So it's a really good idea that I tested my code to make sure that we're good to go. And as you saw, we had that error. It's like where the age was not recognized as an integer, so it couldn't be compared. So we fixed that, and now we're great. Now what we need to do is take it to the next step. We're going to communicate now to our end user about, okay, therefore your ticket price is this. So let's do that. I'm going to use another comment thing. So communication to user. Okay, and I use user or end user. I use those kind of terms pretty interchangeably. So what is that communication going to be? So we're going to print, and what we're going to print is saying, like, your ticket price is now going to be this. So we could say, how about we indicate, because we did collect their first name and their last name, maybe we want to work with that. So we can say, thank you. And what we could do is outside of the quotations, we're going to pull in first name and then the last name. So we're going to go, thank you. Let's say, except putting my name in here, Tina Franzen, your price will be this, something like that. Okay, so thank you. Now, if you recall, if I call up a variable that's after a string like this, or after characters like this, I have to put a plus sign, and I'm going to now type in first name. That's first name variable, and it populates here, so I can just click on it. Excellent. Now, if I were to continue here, if I was done, I could be great. But since I'm going to add more, I have to be careful to put a plus sign at the end of this first line. Oops. And thank you, Tina. Now, I want a space between my first name and last name. Just because I put a space in my program here, that doesn't mean that's going to happen when the output comes out. So I actually have to physically code that in. So to do that, it is another quotation, space inside, and now I'm going to call up last name. Click on that. Oops. There we go. So thank you, first name, last name. I can actually hit enter. Yeah, so thank you. And then we're going to do a period at the end. So I'm going to do quotation, oops, period, and period. Let's run this first before we go any further, just to make sure. And I do note that I still have to print the ticket here. That's okay. I'm just going to leave that for now. We can get rid of that afterwards. Let's run. Oh, okay. So I had a feeling I was making a mistake somewhere. So after the last name, you see how it even points out there's this invalid syntax. It's because, as I indicated earlier, if you're going to put something afterwards, you have to make sure you have that plus sign. This is why I'm really glad I tested my code as I keep going on, so I can catch these things, so I'm not down my whole program thinking it's perfect, everything's amazing, and then having all these errors. So I like to deal with the errors one thing at a time. So run. All right, let's see where we're at. Okay. Okay, so it costs $16, and thank you, Tina Franzen. So far, that's great. I have my sentence. I can even do a new sentence if I like, and I can maybe print again. And your ticket will cost, and maybe I'll put a dollar sign in as well. And I'm not going to put a space in afterwards on purpose, just so that that cost value will come right afterwards. And then I'm going to then press my plus sign and call it the variable of ticket price. All right, so hopefully this runs perfectly. Let's take a look. Run. An error. So I got so far to line 21, and we get to 22, we have this error. And take a look. It says, can only concentrate string, not integer. So this is where we're at from the opposite from before. So you'll notice that all of these are numerical numbers. There's no quotations around it, so they are integer values. Well, in terms of putting it into a sentence like this, we can't have it as an integer value. We actually have to have it as a string value. So just like up here where we took our age, we made it as an integer. We're going to do something similar with our ticket price. Okay, so what I'm going to do is underneath here, I'm just going to do it right here. I'm just going to take our ticket price and equals ticket price, just like before. Oops. Ticket price equals, and just like we did above here, where age equals and so on, I'm going to go ticket price is now equal to, and str to now convert it to a string. So we're taking our integer, converting it to a string, bracket, and then call up ticket price again. There you go. All right, so that should work. Let's try it now. All right. So it gave me the 16 as the ticket price. So regardless of whether it was an integer or if it was a string value, it still called up that just printed that variable, that value, because it was on its own. It didn't really matter. But as you knew in here, we had the issue because it was within this sentence. We need to now convert it to string, which we did. So it looks nice and tidy here. I may want to put a period here at the end real quick, just because I'm a bit of a stickler. So I'm going to put a plus sign here. And then I'm going to do my quote, period, quote. Okay, and that's closed. And I'm same time, I don't need this anymore. Rather than deleting it, I could use that comment feature just to comment it out so that I can bring it back at any time I want. So you can erase it by all means. But in this case, I'm actually just going to comment it out. So that's a common thing to do where you're like, yeah, you know what? I don't mind it being there, but I just don't need to be executed. So I'm just going to comment it out. Let's run our program. So thank you, and your ticket will cost $16. There you go. So this is using conditional formatting, conditional statements within Python, and we're using the Google Colab environment to do this for us.